Okay. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. I'm going to attempt to, I don't know if you can hear the background music, but there is background music. I'm going to attempt to finish this episode that I left open. And part of the ending of it wasn't recorded, so this is part 2 properly. The main fascinating thing about this lecture is that it is wondering about where our self is going. This is a question and everybody will wonder about at some point. But what's fascinating is that question has follow-up questions with it, as if before you can truly, let's say, to some degree, understand where your self is going, you have to look at what your self is and also what it has been. In part 1, I spoke about how human beings at some point in life, they contact a sort of simulated nature of reality, and they come to understand that yes, the world does provide you with shapes and forms outside of you, but how you hold everything you have seen in meaning is a personal act, meaning that the earliest simulation that the human being comes across is a self-simulation. I find this notion to be very fascinating, that it's not just our world is simulated, we are simulated here too, but for what purpose, for what action? What is the true role of every human being that will ever live on this earth? That is the profound question. So to wonder about where the self goes, it's like looking at a sphere in space and having that sphere suddenly like explode and every part of it being capable of going a different direction. I think what's most relatable to humans now when we wonder about what the self is a matter of how are we functioning. I think that a person can be fascinated by various viewpoints and philosophies and approaches, but at some point, it's the unavoidable. What do we do with existential intelligence while we're here kind of situation? I don't know how to say it, but at some point the attention of the human being wonders about the depths and the totality of what it is. We can wonder about what happens to the idea of self. We can look at how people are being a sense of self. I found it fascinating of how many self-simulations have I lived through, and how many self-simulations of others have I witnessed and been a part of. This fascinates me. You see, yesterday when I decided to give part 1, I had this not sense of certainty, but more as if you're seeing something so vast that it's fascinating to you. And so I thought about not just where does the self go, but how that question is synonymous with the question, what are the limits of the self? That means, first question, are we human beings working with unlimited selves? Or is there a limitation to the type of self and being we find ourselves here? Now, what's interesting is that at some point, not every, but the path towards this question, towards the answer of the question, where is the self going? It's like wondering about the journey of your sight so far. The journey of what you have found so far in this realm. The reason I'm saying that it's synonymous with having limits is because at what point is there a self, and could it be dependent on a dynamic of observance owning something? That means, in what state am I a self? Is it a state where I am conscious that I'm a self, or are states where I'm not conscious on being a self? Am I a self or not? This is not to make people wonder about this like as if it's some existential rabbit hole. It's more like something I learned from movies, to be honest, where there were characters that would just first have the patience to see how things would settle before they act. For me, so far, how this reality has settled, and I'm trying to tell you, at some point, it's no longer like a public journey. And at some point, you become more fascinated, not with what the world is, that is too big of a question answer, but question, but it's more like in what ways have I held the meaning of my world? You see, there's to kind of analyze it, at least based on what we find within our moment of awareness we consider to be. Based on what we activate, we consider to be our being. Is the human being just an object? No, it has an objective component. So when we wonder about the self, we come to the body problem. What's going to happen to the human body? And how much of our sense of self is based on the body? Then it goes further. How much of ourself is a body? Are there moments of conscious intelligence that we notice we are not just behaving like an inanimate object hovering in space? That we as beings have an ability to notice what's going on and then decide. That is to me a very fascinating capability of just an organism, really. The reason I was telling you at some point the impersonal story becomes a personal story is because the deeper aspects of what your self is, there's an impersonal component and then there's a personal component. The impersonal component is like just what's there. So everybody has a biological body. That's the impersonal. The personal is how you have lived through so far in this life and what you have done with the value of your sight. That means it's not just about you having seen a world and understood something, it's about what is the value of what you have seen. For me, the story at some point shifts into this realization, this profound realization of the presence of a system administrator. That means the more personal I get, the more I realize this, if this reality was a type of code I'm acknowledging, more and more I'm realizing I haven't written this code. It is not written by man. We like to consider that everything is in man's control, but the moment the species realizes how many factors are not in its control, and how the continuation through history, at any point the future generations look back, will be like, okay, that was a miracle. It is a question of how much till, or let me say it this way, till what state is their ownership of self? Do you know, in the subtitle of at least in part one, it's there. I wrote voices are sounds that belong to a soul. So one thing is very clear: if you're a named entity, you're in this game of ownership, but it's not an ownership of that which you are not, because then that leads to delusion. It's an ownership of reality, of your own reality, and wondering about who put the meaning where. This is one of the biggest games to play in life. Who put the meaning where? How much of your day-to-day life, everything you're seeing, you have given meaning to, and how much of it does it have a meaning that is external to you? This world, at least the style of it I have witnessed so far, it is not behaving it is not behaving based on rationality, because our rationality, there's limits of what we're aware of. Where does the self go is not wondering about just what will happen to you in this physical life, in this world you are in. It is wondering about the finale of this awareness you have been this whole time. The world, the actual world always tends to be different than the world we were raised in. This thing of wondering about the limits of yourself, wondering about what does it mean to be a self, wondering about how much of your sense of self is based on your past, how much of it is based on your ability to wonder about the future. And at some point, if reality is more mysterious than we have considered, what does a species do in the face of the unknown? it's the situation on this planet is not per se, it's not just viewable based on how human beings have behaved based on what they've known. More of life is about how human beings are reacting or responding to the unknown. A person's sense of fear is also based on how much of their reality they know and they don't know. It's all about, to some degree, it's very territorial, actually. Yeah. Existence of a mental nature is territory oriented. Where does the self go also influences how you live. It is clear that secular people they live as if the future they are responding to is of just a visible boundary. To be honest, in my opinion, you start off being convinced by natural laws, and then at some point you begin to see in certain moments natural law behave differently, and you come to the realization that there's a whole different paradigm. Beyond the self that we are, what is there? You know, I thought about life when I was younger, that I'll be just thinking about what's in life. If this whole world you've seen is a box, and they say think out of the box, how many people have thought outside of the box of what is real to them? To be honest, it's about thinking about what comes after. We are that type of creature. We are a type of being designed to wonder about what comes after every action, because that has been the training grounds of survival. But in reality, every person that moves, any organism that is active, it is active in accordance to obviously a response to a scenario in its mind. It's a projection. Organisms are projecting futures, walking towards them, then coming into terms with what reality is actually like, beyond how they simulate it in accordance to preference. For me, it's a jurisdiction of self, especially because I am Muslim. It's about the jurisdiction of what space is there for me to be a self. Exactly. It's like if your whole life you have been thinking about an embodied shaped self, it's wondering about what else can be applicable to the consciousness. The immediate answer is that nobody knows. If you were asking me personally, I would say the system admin only knows. Life is not that we're just in the presence of a world, we're in the presence of a force that the world moves in accordance to. That force at first may appear as natural law, but it's actually a force called, very unknown force called a divine command. And what that means is, if this is a very ridiculous way of saying it, but imagine if reality was it was like a simulated layer. If you took off the simulated layer, like the bumper, like the hood of a car, what you would find, I guess from one person's view, behind the scenes of visible reality, is you find that you find a realm where it's everything knows where to go because it has been commanded. You see, the biggest, at least theological clue, is that reality was commanded into being. It was instantaneously created. The aspects of it by mere command. It's as if you're not in a created world, you're in a commanded world. A world that has been commanded to exist, commanded to be. Where does the self go is such a big question that it is a healthy question in the sense of it brings you into this atmosphere where no lie can help you. It's like when you're trying to wonder about truth, when you're searching for truth, you don't have time for lies. Even your own lies, the things you're convincing yourself of what reality actually is. What it is like we just find ourselves in a participant position. Many things beyond our control, somewhat of reality in our control if we can communicate or move through certain frameworks. But when you really look at what's going on here, you have to at some point be like, yo, okay, I gotta relax and think about how much of life I'm wanting it to mean something. And if I had to look at it from anew, what would it exactly mean? Where does the self go at any age, wherever you are? It's like a question where its answer is everything that is happening in the space of the awareness of the being. There's been times in my dreams I've experienced like something similar to like an after death. And what tends to happen is that just like right now we have the comfort of knowing that we can function and like move our body, it's just the boundary of being. The boundaries of being change. Right now on earth, like from the moment we're born, the boundaries of what we do is changing. But the boundaries of what we're being is like gradually being noticed. But it's at some point, like, I don't know if it requires a type of courage or naivety or something, but it's like having the courage to wonder about what you're missing and how much of what you see actually explains what's going on. It doesn't. It's a surface layer. I thought I was giving lectures on planet Earth. It's like, no way, man. What's where I am right now is such a hilarious, place that it's as if not only is every human being like simulating their own sphere of meaning wherever they go, but it's all to some degree a sort of shape management, resource substance management. And ultimately, how do you value intelligence based on what it's capable of? To me, the view changed. It's not like I'm on some random planet. It's that I'm inside an intelligent system where I am simulated in natural laws, but all natural laws are simulated through divine commands. Think of like code irrelevant to the psyche of the individual, irrelevant to your conditioning. This world has not been designed to be as if like it's solved and you're done. It's something that's like a kind of live performance, really. To be a human being is to be a performer, but you're performing in the language. So culture is kind of like language for the mind. And what culture is how a bunch of beings have experience on a chunk of land and how they behave, and pretty much the patterns that get formed. But to truly dive into it, where does the self go? I ask myself one question: whatever happens to this self, change, they say, is inevitable. And of course, it makes sense that change is required. It's like, will the awareness and consciousness change to a point where it knows what it is or it doesn't know what it is? It's the question of the continuity. It's kind of like you're not just living a life, you're setting the momentum of where you're going, what you're going to meet, how you're going to meet your moments. And what can you really keep? So this is very important. I said, let's say voices are sounds that belong to a soul. And death is like the endings that belong to each one of us. Everybody has like their own unique ending, and they should see like how it naturally plays out. It's like various views open up based on what kind of self you are, the energy you consider to be, what this energy can do, wants to do, cares to do, truly values to do and be, and realize what it does, it becomes. If I ask my heart, the answer would be that whatever this self is will return to the original state. To reference what it has been. It's like from one angle, if somebody's like, what's the mission of your life here? I'll be like, all right, man, I'm in a system. It has a system admin. Everything is self-simulated, and even once you get through the self-simulations, it's externally simulated. So you're inside like this maze of simulations. And you have to figure out what to do while you're in this maze of simulations here. And the advice that is being given, which is, I think, a mighty effort, is to notice that intelligence that's happening here beyond self-simulated reality. And it seems like to attain higher states of being is closer to being, to the being that is that higher state. Life can either be you found yourself like a random character in an unknown video game, or it can be that you're inside a system. This system has intelligence. How yourself moves and happens suggests the type of intelligence. To come to the realization that the type of self you have thought you are this whole time is a self kept through a range of states of being. And beyond those states, what you are, an observation through them to give an answer, is unknown. Life is really incredible. It's like this gigantic system that's happening, and you have to find what is applicable to you in it. And at some point, everybody goes through different classrooms, which I think are like ages. Every age is like its own subjective classroom. And it's like, to some degree, you do find yourself in some sort of like video game-like world. But you realize that you cannot find the edge of the character customization protocol. So it's not just like realizing you're a human being that's important. It's also realizing, okay, what can this human being do in this world that it has animated in? Do you know, like the self is states of consciousness where there is control over the body. What really the body is, what really the intelligence that moves the body is, what is the value of having developed as a sort of personality on Earth, as a sort of expression of your own DNA, like fruits on a tree, like flowers in a garden, like trees in a jungle. Do you know, different human beings with different DNAs manifest, and instead of giving like, you know, flowers and fruit and all that, the results of it is the consequence of their actions. To me, I reached a divine answer to the degree that divinity is beyond man. It is a room beyond man. So to touch divinity is not the point, but to wonder about what you are is a permissible act. To wonder about the depths of it is coming to the realization that individual life is based on how we've been conditioned to self-simulate reality. And beyond this, you're not in a world with just human beings and animals and technology as the most advanced technology. You're in the living presence of the system. Something very fascinating about religion is that I feel that there's of course different souls, different tasked with different destinies. But to me, in the Islamic religious book, or I think in many religious books, it says God is close to you. The whole point of it, religion summed down to me, that this revelation is telling me that you're in the presence, you're in a world where the presence of its creator is here. It's as if suddenly I'm not on some empty planet. I'm inside a system administered, simulated existential system. So when based on the type of intelligence that is present in your world, your priorities change. Who you become even changes. It's not just having a relationship with yourself as an individual and then having a relationship with other human beings. It's about how is all of reality for you so far a relationship at all? What sort of relationship do you have with what you are considering to be reality? So, in wondering about where the self goes, we wonder about what that self is. We come into contact with the context of that self, which is its world. Based on the behavior, the way its world behaves, we get a sense of how that self behaves. The environment defines the self as much as modern human beings are defining the environment. We have to realize this. I think pretty much the quick answer is, where does the self go? It returns everything in existence is poetically coded, in an abstract way coded, to return to its original point. All of existence will return to an original position, which completes the simulation. For example, a human being dying, that's one type of simulation completing, and then the end of the world is another type of simulation completing. Or your ideas on something changing is you stepping into a different simulation. The question is about value, and it's really pointing to what is your value theory, or how do you value what is valuable, what has value, what is the most important priority of human beings. And this is where it gets interesting, because then it personalizes. For example, for me, if somebody asked me, what should all human beings do? I would say it seems we're inside a simulated system that is governed based on divine commanded code. Divine code, let's call it. This divine code is superior to a code based on natural laws. So what it is it's human beings, we gotta connect to the system, to the original point of the system. And once we have an awareness that nothing that we are is the original, we realize that to be a human being is like finding the freedom to be in the presence of the original. So there's a system admin, okay? My view is if you see life as a simulation, you have to notice the system admin. The system admin that has positioned you where you are knows how to go beyond that. Okay, so at some point it's not like being a human being on earth and living alone and your intelligence is just limited to your mind. It's like you suddenly realize that this world, whatever type of intelligence you have found in it, has been created by the most intelligent, by the origin of intelligence. That means the value we have as conscious beings in this realm is that there is still an original connection. People are like, yo man, what have these religious people been doing all these years? What's the point of imagination, abstraction? What's the point of wondering about what is beyond the visible and all of this? And we come to a moment where we realize what is behind the visible is how we have kept the visible, but then how we have kept the visible through the depths of our heart will be revealed. It's kind of bizarre, but like if somebody was like, what is like getting to know your own soul like? And it's like realizing that it was originally commanded here. That means we were coded here. If I'm existing, if you're existing right now, we're part of existential code. And you got to realize a lot of life has been designed that you get distracted by your self code before you can wonder about beyond the codes of yourself. My fascination is sort of like I see so many different types of human beings, and then I wonder, okay, what sort of activity or human activation is my human existence, is my existence here for? Poetically, the value of a human being, the value of a soul is like a lantern in a dark room. This is strange, but just like Titanic, the truth of reality is not like there is the Titanic. It's more like what was happening inside when the ship was sinking. At some point, all human beings realize, okay, we're here for some time. How do we want to treat this world? How do we want to treat this reality? How do we want to wake up and consider there's a value here? That means every person you see that they can communicate, they've conceptualized. What does that mean? Is they're in a conceptual Iron Man suit that their consciousness can keep stable. I'm trying to say that the self is more like where we're being and what we're being while we're there, than just something fixed. It's like it has an object component, like a noun type component, and it has a verb type component. The noun type component, yes, the body's going to go back to the earth. But the verb component is, wait a minute, what was intelligence doing while it was intelligent? That's the question. They're like, to be or not to be. It's like, relax, bro. We're all scared of death. Like, we're all thinking, like, what's going to happen? Everybody's headed somewhere. We can't ignore it. The whole point of it is, okay, so what we pay attention to, what value do we have now? And what is this being suddenly in this show called life, where you have to perform for your existence's continuity? This is a phrase that not many people will understand, but it's like humanity has always been waiting for itself. That's so deep, that sentence, you don't understand. Do you know where the question, where does the self go, is another way of saying, like, what will you be? Like, what are you being right now? How much of yourself have you known that you can even explore? What is the true relationship of intelligent organisms on this earth? Is it just to be preoccupied by themselves till they die? Or is it to, in some sense, pull the curtains of the familiar to the side and look upon a realm where there is an intelligence behind every scene? It's as if every moment is held in a value that just because we can't see it that way doesn't mean the value doesn't exist. We think this world is visible. There is so much hidden, including ourselves. For me, when it comes to, like, this is going to be strange to say, but like the type of viewers, I've always been fascinated by those beings, any type of being, or let's say any being that has a capacity to view the furthest. There's something so poetic and magnificent about that. That those who have that seem to, like, how do I say it? It's like knowing what's going on. It seems to be knowing what the original power to the system is. And the question is, how small have you made your world, and how big is it actually? But to me, at least, as one soul that's here, it's clear there's a soul line. That means I do feel, as a human being, just that there is it's not like I've just have a unique DNA and been designed in a certain way. I also have, like, pre-coded things to do. It's as if we're not just designed to be something, we're also designed to be what that being can do. So we're not just limited in our identity of self, of just thinking, okay, I am this just because this is what's in the moment. Like, it's the old saying thing where they say, the person's like, I gotta see it to believe it, and the dude's like, I don't see your brain, does that mean you don't have a brain? And then the whole argument, like, dissolves. The more you become conscious that there's a system administrative force here, the less you can function as just a subjective being and more you become a being that is trying to align itself to the sincerest presence of the day. There's so many ways that human beings can live and will live on this planet. But the greatest legacy of every knowledge so far has been to keep certain realities alive. And it is no question for me that there is 100% a system admin here, but this system admin is not anything in the system. No person can come and tell you, yo, I'm system admin. Even those people who say we're all system admin, not for our eyes. To be human is to be in a station. You're stationed in existence. Now, this self that has been stationed in such a world, what has it come here to do? What does it care to do? Sometimes we may look at a person and be like, yo man, their awareness is so low, what a fool. You know, and we see somebody who has a very high awareness, oh my God, what a genius. But then we begin to see, no. It's not about how the individual human beings see each other. It's about where all the individual human beings actually are, and in the acknowledgement of that quality, there comes the unity of being in the same world, because for now people are in different worlds and you can't do anything about it. You know, that means it's the whole illusion of control. So where does the self go is like asking, what do you have control of? And it seems how you perform in this world it's all about, I think, what you're aware of. Do you know what it is? It's like, imagine a bunch of, there's this grandfather, the grandkids are playing, the grandfather's in the room, and the grandkids start speaking rude or something. It's like the grandfather was in the room and comes and corrects them or something like that. What I'm trying to say is, similarly, it is not a humanizable relationship, because that's the whole point of the higher power. It is not defined and limited by the lower world appearance. It's like wondering about the average, let's say wondering about the human being's connection to the divine original. It's like having a relationship with an absolutism that is flawless, a flawless absolute. That means every day you wake up, are you waking up in the presence of yourself only? Or are you waking up in the presence of all that this world is? That means they're like, yo, ethics, what should we do? Oh my God, we should behave as if the whole cosmos knows everything all the time. That lies were just hiding bunkers. That what reality is the presence of a divinely commanded intelligence. It's like, why have my eyes opened this way to reality? Why am I here? Why is existence shaped at all? How long did it take for existence to be able to even notice it's shaped? And then after it's noticed it's shaped, what has it done? Has it created a language of shapes, or self-simulated language of shapes over all the other shapes to feel like it knows what those shapes are? strategy seems to come down to what do we do with what we have. And right now in 2025, human beings have a way further vision of the future than where they are right now. It's clear to me. It's not about uniting the species, like everybody hold hands, yay, kumbaya. It's not that. Because once they hold hands, they're like, okay, now what do we do, all of us? This might sound strange, but you might have no affiliation with anything, but you are in an existential game with a mission. And it's not like, yo, man, is this mission impossible? I'll be like, no, it's mission, get to know the impossible. It is how advanced is this awareness here? What are the boundaries of the self? And there's visible outcomes of what will happen to the self, but what if it wasn't just a visible game? What if the way our energy is moving in this realm is important? Maybe the energy that we are is based on what we are aware of. What is the greatest thing that you can be aware of as a self in a world while you're here? It is the totality of the intelligence of your world, the complete package, or let's say the full experience of why you're here and what your part is. Sometimes I look at life and I'm like, man, if all the stressful situations in my life, if I had knowledge and awareness that I had after those experiences would be so unnecessary. But sometimes, regardless of how you've lived, you have to ask the question, what am I looking at and why am I looking at it? So the path of where does the self go? Well, we got to be able to see what the self is, where the self is, and we come to the realization the self puts the meaning in the forms. It gives meaning, or it doesn't give meaning, and the divine management gives the meaning. Because really, to be a human being is to own a position of awareness, is to be a state position of awareness, a moving position of awareness. You know, more than I'm telling you something in this lecture, I am looking. I am honestly, you don't know, I've had days where I've just looked at this and I'm like, where is it going? Is the world going to scare like the human species? Or is it going to show how advanced it can be? What are the changes that need to happen? What can happen? If there was the smartest outcome, would there be anyone to even notice it to make it happen? What have we not seen yet? As a Muslim, for example, you are not living for now, you're living for what is to come. This world is clarified as a simulation. And it's also a divine surveillance state, meaning how you behave is important, but more than that, it's what you truly become aware of. Because this might sound strange, truth to me has been something that I can always, not always, but I can sense by being true. To be true, you have to be a simpler being than your desires. At some point you just look at this life and you're like, yo, it's like this slow moving treadmill. and what like it's just this thing that's going forth, and what is the approach, what is the type of quality of this, like some decisions have to do with your physical continuity, some decisions have to do with your psychological continuity. Who are you even to be here, to do anything at all, and why are you here? You're here obviously by just being here, that kind of suggests that you're here to do something. If the self is going back to the original, perhaps it's an interesting endeavor to get to know the original. It's like wondering about what is the value of surviving in a fake world, or what is the value of surviving in a simulation. You know how they say culture has a mind of its own? Obviously, because all the different minds are coming and redirecting it all the time. To me, I ask myself, is there a more advanced way this like life on Earth can happen right now in 2025? And the answer is yes. So I know that the attention that has gone to this cultural programs we live in today, it's with the assumption that the smartest have seen. It's like the furthest vision has been seen, and then that this is why this has been chosen. You see, the whole point of it is that in nature, we were controlled by the environment. We stepped out of the environment and we started controlling it. We started controlling it even as groups. And then in some sense, it's the invisible architecture of civilization and societies are built. It's like we didn't just give value to ourselves. We didn't give just a name to ourselves. It's like we also subjectively own reality. That means if aliens land down, we're like, guys, this is like human territory, get out of here. Right? What does that mean? That means it's like we own the idea of that we're all being the idea of the human. It's really wondering about the answer to that question, is also wondering about the destiny of everything you have been a part of, everything you have done, and like how every flower in every garden has ever felt. You know, you appear as what you are. Do you know why they say, like, they have to separate reality with imagination? By doing so, you will never wonder about reality because imagination can satisfy. For me, the reality was a realization that the surge of the soul's power leads to where the power actually comes, and it's beyond the soul. To me, spirituality has become standing quiet in the presence of the system admin until called forth. To trust this world and to see what that would look like. It's all about the type of intelligence. For me, I see there's a system administrative intelligence here. And that means that it's kind of, this might sound strange, but you know how like in corporate culture, it's like who you know is important. Imagine like a margin call or something, who you know is important. Similarly, I think being alive on this planet is like, it's being suggested you can get to know the system administrator of it. And as you go towards, like, I guess this does fit into the Islamic framework, but his first layer is like knowing truth, what it is, knowing that it is, and then you reach a point where you begin to see the system admin. Instead of seeing natural law, simulated reality, you begin seeing the divine commanded of moments. That means you find yourself in moments and you already know where the moment has to go, not because you know it, because you can notice that it's commanded that way. We're not just in the presence of a substantial world. We're in the presence of the truth of it all. Where does the self go? How have you opened your eyes to this world? How have you moved through it? What values do you have of it? And based on the depth of an answer you have to these, suggests what kind of human being you will be. More than it's surviving in a jungle-like world, it's trying to discover the intelligence to how the system is administered. I don't know if there will be a part 3 to this, but I feel there's so much more to say. But it's really an open-ended question, I guess, answer to the question. In reality, I find it's based on, like, the true intelligence of the world you acknowledge. Anyways, thank you for listening. Take care. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful.